Welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast, where strategic leaders get straight to the topics, strengthening our awareness and sharpening our minds. The Pen Leader Podcast is produced by Roar, a production division of Mays & Associates Ltd. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Now here is your award-winning host, Dr. Shanda Gore.
Hello, and welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast. Today, we are doing a special show, Leading Under Fire, in recognition of 9/11 and for the first responders and those that lost their lives in this terrible tragedy. We're doing a special segment on leadership that specifically is in the fire departments across the country and across the world. And I am so excited to have with me someone who has more than 40 years experience working in fire service. I have Chief Scotty Hathaway, and he is from a long family of firefighting. His grandfather and his dad were both firefighters. He started off at the age of 18, the Woodville Township Volunteer Fire Department, and then he got an opportunity to join the Toledo Fire and Rescue Department, and he spent 33 and a half years there working as a firefighter and hazmat team. He was an instructor of multiple recruitment classes. He retired out as a number one badge. But while he was doing that role, he was also part of the Allen Clay Joint Fire District, was a captain there. And then he currently is the Vernon Township Fire Department Chief of Training. And he has, again, combined both in volunteering and in full-time service, so many years of experience. And I'm just so glad to have Chief Hathaway part of the show today. So hello, Scotty.
Hi, Dr. Gore. How are you doing?
Doing well. So I felt it was important to really, again, give a tribute, since this show will be actually dropping on 9/11, and just to recognize in our family, we come from a family of firefighters as well. But, you've got a life of service. You've got generations of firefighting in your family. And my first question is, what's your passion within that, and what drives you to do firefighting?
Well, like I said, I grew up around it, and I was always up at the fire station with my dad. He would always take me up there when they were up doing training or doing work details, and I just always wanted to do it. I just always wanted to be a firefighter. I like helping people, and just a privilege and an honor to be able to serve in that capacity. Over the years, got to meet and become great friends with a lot of great people, and it's just, I don't know how to explain it. It's just something that I've always wanted to do and got to fulfill my dream.
Well, you've trained so many firefighters as I look. You've got certifications as a firefighter 1 and 2, EMT. You're a fire instructor. You're a fire officer, safety officer. You've trained so many. What are the characteristics you look for in those that to be strong leaders in this field? Because this is a unique field. And what characteristics would you suggest someone to have?
First and foremost, I would say experience and knowledge. It means a great deal. I know it always has to me and a lot of people I've worked with. If somebody's leading you want them to have experience in that field. And you're never going to have seen everything or done everything. But if you've got a number of years of experience, you're going to be better apt to make quick decisions and better in decisions. Because obviously in our field, you have to think on your feet and things happen rapidly. So you have to be able to adjust to that. Another thing that I really think is a huge asset as a leader is to care about your people and let them know that you care about them. They need to know that their best interest is always the forefront for you. And there's a lot that goes into that. That is a huge asset to a leader in my mind. You also want to have a sense of calmness, because obviously things get chaotic at times, and the calm leader things go much more smoothly than if you have somebody that's excited, and that goes EMS scenes, fire scenes, anything like that. So calmness is huge to me. And I've always liked seeking knowledge outside of the department you're on, because there's all kinds of different trainings and ways of doing things And if you just stick with what your department does, there's much better things out there potentially that could potentially save lives or make your job easier. So that's another area that I think is big with the leaders. Seek knowledge outside of your comfort zone.
Hmm. I think that speaks volumes, even firefighting, or if you're putting out fires in your own corporate, or you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to put out fires amongst your customers, looking outside your industry is so critically important. I think you bring up so many important points about the fact that you are suggesting to seek out the experience and the education in the area, which we talk about that in Penn Leadership. But we also understand that if you can pick up the best practices that may be applicable in your department, in your area, that's important. I think another point you brought up, and we talk about, again, leading under fire, that pressure point about staying calm. Can you give an instance when you were under a lot of pressure and had to think quickly on your toes?
Yes, I actually have one that involves your husband.
Okay.
It was a run we were on. It was on a 4th of July. It was the middle of the night. We had a really busy day, and we were dispatched to a medical alarm, and we pulled up, and there was several police officers there, and we were there. And what we generally do is we'll knock on doors and windows, and a lot of times they're accidental, where somebody will accidentally hit their button. And we were getting no response, and we were going around to the side windows of this house. Nobody was answering. So I said to your husband, Bobby, I said, hey, I'm going to go grab a Halligan bar, which is one of the tools we use to force the door. He goes, I'll come down with you and grab something else. Well, as we were walking off the porch, one of the police officers ran off the porch to his car. We're like, I wonder where he's going. Well, we grabbed our tools and we're walking back up. We come around the back of the engine, and we see him go up on the porch with a crowbar, which I don't think I've ever seen. And he starts forcing the door. Well, as we're walking up, we hear a gunshot, see him drop to the ground on the porch.
Oh.
It's like, okay, well, we grabbed everybody and we got behind our engine for cover, and we're looking, and we didn't have a life squad with us. So I told the officer, hey, we need to get a life squad coming. Told them which way to come so they weren't coming in front of the house. And as we were doing that, we saw the officer climb over the railing of the porch. So me and Bobby ran up to grab him because we didn't know how bad, if he was hurt or how bad. And luckily he wasn't injured bad. He just got either grazed with a bullet or the splintering wood, just small cut on his head. So we ran up there, grabbed him, and got him back on the other side of the engine and just made sure he was okay. But that was a moment where we had to do some quick thinking to find out what was going on. And it ended up being the homeowner. It was an elderly lady that thought somebody was breaking in and shot out through the side of the door.
So even in a situation like that, the blood gets pumping, but you're still, between the two of you, very calm, level-headed. We got to get the job done, and we got to get, obviously, this officer to a safe situation and make sure he's okay. But that just doesn't happen just with one instance. This happens across the board in a number of instances, probably daily for you. When you go into these situations, you don't know what to expect, right?
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of unknowns, and a lot of times you're thinking it's whatever your incident you're going to isn't going to be a big deal, and then something changes, and you have to really be able to adjust on the fly. Think about what you're doing and what needs to happen and how you're going to get it done safely, and that happens quite often.
Mm-hmm. What trends do you find are occurring now in training, because you've been in firefighting for 40 years and you've been training and now you're chief of training? What are you seeing from when you started training to now? What's changed? What are the trends?
Well, a lot of it, and we focused on EMS when I started, but as years have gone, EMS is just more and more of our run load and more of what we have to deal with on our job. So EMS training has really come a long way, required for our job function. So EMS is a huge change, but training has gone up tremendously in that. Two things that have really come to the forefront that's part of training is cancer prevention, because we've learned over the years what causes cancer for us. We have a much higher rate of cancer than the general population. So we've have to adjust what we do now compared to in the past. In the past, you didn't really wash your gear all that much. It was kind of considered a badge of honor to have a dirty helmet and gear, where now we're pushing after every fire, you clean your gear, you make sure you on scene decon as much as you can, whether you hose off your gear, brush off your gear. We have wipes that we can wipe down our face, neck, ears, hands. And as soon as you get back to the station, make sure you get your showers and that to get cleaned up. A lot of departments are giving second sets of gears so that you can immediately wash your set of gear you wore in the fire and then have a clean set with you. The other big thing is mental health. mental health has really come to the forefront. Back when I started, there really was no avenue for that. And it was kind of one of those things that you had a bad run or saw bad stuff, you just dealt with it. Where we've learned over the years that we need help. We need to look out for each other. We need to help each other. And there's many, many more resources available in that aspect. And we talk about that in training. If a crew has a bad call, tell the crews, talk to each other, check with each other. Us as administrators with the department I'm at, we will call and check with the crews. We will stop in the station, we'll pull them aside and just talk to them, make sure everything's good. We have resources available. We have EAP, we have other resources that are available for them to reach out to if they're having issues. And that's a big thing because there's been a lot of suicides over the years in the fire and EMS service. So the more we can do to prevent that is a huge thing. One of the other things is obviously social media and the digital part of training, which when I started, we didn't have that. I still don't do any social media myself, but that's big for the newer generation.
So even being mindful of using social media in a way that help, right? Not as a hindrance, but to hopefully to help with some of the education. As training is online, I would think is what you're saying.
Yes, yeah, we do a lot of online stuff. A lot of the guys will look on Facebook and Instagram and that and get ideas from there, which they have to watch out because some are great and some things aren't such a good idea, but where you have to filter that out. So that's a big part anymore. And watching videos and getting videos from YouTube and that also help out with training.
I think there's something said about the number of certifications, that the history, I do think what you're saying about, just being prepared. Some of that you can prepare for, but I think we also talk about in Penn leadership about strength of character and having a plan. And it's very obvious that when you're leading in fire, you have to have a plan to rescue, a plan to safely get out of the building as well. But it also on site with some of the EMT side of life. I think there's something said about people don't realize you lead in other areas. You're not just fighting fires. And would you agree with some of that? And what's some of the other things that you do?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. EMS is a huge part of our job. Also, we have to do pre-plans. So we'll go out in the community, into businesses and commercial buildings, and we will pre-plan those so that if there is a fire, we know entrances, exits, any hazards that are inside the building or outside the building, where sprinkler connections are, if they have sprinklers, where the fire alarm panels are. All that helps us out. So if there is an incident there, we're better prepared and we can pull that information up and use that to help us contain that fire or incident that's happening at that structure. So our crews here, we're a small area, so we hit all the commercial buildings in our areas, and then the following year, a different shift goes through those buildings and updates any information, and then they get their eyes on it. And any high hazard buildings, all three shifts will go through them, and that helps us a lot.
So you're talking about, again, having that on scene and, thinking back and again, a tribute to 9/11, you can only plan as much, right? They all had plans, but there's also, things that are unforeseen, you just never know, right? And then doing the best to pivot in a circumstance like that. And then leading others that are looking to you, like, what do we do, right?
Yes, and that's the other thing. You always have to be able to adjust because a lot of times things don't go according to plan. Something will happen that's unexpected or something will happen that your initial plan isn't going to work. You have to be able to adapt and quickly adjust that plan.
And again, even with sites, like again, going out, and if it's not a fire, even going to a location and helping those on scene with whatever circumstances there. Talk about how do you relieve the pressure, the stress? What recommendations would you make or suggestions for those that are in situation where it's a high pressure, maybe they're not literally in a fire, but they may feel the stress of a circumstance and they're a leader and people are looking to them. What suggestions do you make for that population?
Sometimes you have to take a deep breath, look at the big picture, and staying calm. The calmer you can stay, the easier it is going to be for you to work through whatever situation is happening. I've seen on scenes where leaders are excited and it just makes things worse, where you get that calm leader, even in bad situations, it levels out and makes things much easier.
Yeah, because others are watching and, what do you do? in your pastime to relax? What are you reading and watching? Are you doing anything fun?
Well, I do a lot with our granddaughter. She's 12, coming up on 13. So we do a lot. We'll go to the pool. We'll go to movies, and she just likes dragging me out shopping.
She's dragging you out.
Well, yeah, I get drug along shopping, so she goes out and she just likes shopping. And a lot of times we'll grab one of her friends and we'll go out and do something. We'll go to the pool, or we have a golf cart, so we'll drive around the neighborhood with her friends. And we've always done a lot together, and that's relaxing to me.
So it also sounds like to find an outlet outside the workplace that takes your mind off of your everyday work job and the pressures of that job.
Yes, absolutely. And that's huge, to be able to have downtime also and not constantly have all that pressure.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Chief, for all that you've given in service and coming on the show today and sharing some insights, a story, make some suggestions to those that are leading, maybe individuals who are seeking or interested in firefighting, but also those that are leaders that are under pressure to make big decisions for their teams. Just some pointers for what you can do to relax. So I appreciate your time, Scotty.
Well, thank you. It was an honor for you to ask me to come on here. I really appreciate it.
And for our listeners from the Pen Leader Podcast, we appreciate your sharing the show and liking it. So until next time.
The Pen Leader Podcast is hosted by Dr. Shanda Gore and brought to you by Mays & Associates Ltd., creating customized solutions for growth in the areas of leadership development, strategic planning, and culture building. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pen Leader Podcast and share with others.